Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you the best early game team build in Metaphor Refantazio. Now, this is going to make the game a little bit easier because there is quite a challenge early on in the game. Now, the nice thing about combat is you can restart at any time, but what we want to go with for party makeup. So, I think early on in the game, the healer is the best class for your main character, but you can also work on upgrading the mage class as well because it has fire, ice, and electric attacks, which are very useful. Although a majority of the enemies that you fight early on in the game are going to be weak to light magic. Now you start the game with the Seeker and you can actually give skill inheritance and take the Cyclone Wind attack to your healer, but the main skills you're going to be using is typically the Hama here for light magic damage light, and also the Medi skill to be able to heal your team, and this will heal everyone on your team, which is extremely useful because they're going to take a lot of damage. The enemies hit hard in this game. And yeah, I think that just works best for the early game, but you can also develop the mage skill as well. Now for Stroll, I think it's best to leave him as a warrior. He's going to be your main damage dealer, so you can set up another class if you want to add some more damage to this character here, but a big one is going to be the Slicer attack. Deals weak physical slash damage to one enemy 2 to 4 times. And we want to combo this with a skill that Hulkenberg gets. So with Hulkenberg, I think it's best to keep her a knight as well. Now she's gonna be a little bit more tanky, but the big thing with the knight is we got the ability to draw all aggro to us. So the Knight's Proclamation here draws enemies' attention and takes attack for allies for 1 turn. So using this, it's going to draw all attacks to Hulkenberg. So you got to be obviously keeping her full of health. But what's nice about this is she's able to tank a lot of the hits for us. Now she also should get an item that's going to give her Mage Light because her attacks aren't that strong, but yeah, I think that the Mage Light is probably the best damage option other than going with her special attack. So she does have a pretty useful attack, which I'll show off here in a moment here, but the attack will lower defense, so then you can hit him with Stroll multiple times, deal a ton of damage. And also your character's there to provide support, and with the light holy attacks there, you're able to take down a lot of the enemies early on, at least in the first dungeon. So for equipment, get the best equipment possible. For Hulkenberg, you're going to want to get the Glow Igniter here, which gives you the Mage Light attack, which is going to be a nice backup for her, especially if you have your main character doing light attacks and her as well, and then you got Stroll doing the big heavy hitters. That's going to give you the most amount of damage. Now what this ends up looking like in terms of combat is once we get into a fight, we did not start that off too well. Whenever we get into a fight, we're going to want to set up with using Hulkenberg because she's going to have the most damaging attack. Now with this, I guess you could also just start with going with the Slicer here because you're going to see the normal amount of damage that you'll deal. So that's decent, but you can also pass turns. So using the right bumper here, you can pass turns and then use her Synthesis attack here. The Jump Thrust deals medium physical pierce damage to 1 target, lowers their defense for 3 turns. So this is a good way to set up and start combat. We're going to take this down probably with this attack here, but yeah, typically you want to start with that to lower their defense, and then you can go in for multiple hits with Stroll, and then your character provides support. If there's any targets that are weak to light damage, you can hit them with your attacks. But overall, combat seems to be a combination of using that to set up lower defense. You can also buff your team if you got any spells that will deal a buff, but we're gonna deal a ton of damage here. But yeah, Stroll also has the Round Slash, so anytime you got multiple enemies and more than 2 enemies, it's typically best to go with this attack. It does use 2 of your ability points. Unfortunately, we're just shy of taking out most of these, so that's unfortunate, but you can also just go with light attacks to finish enemies off. That's going to be one of the best strategies early on in the game. They're stunned so they didn't get hit by that, but again, Jump Thrust being a very powerful ability. And then you can also go with the Protect Guard if you have yourself as a healer and Hulkenberg there. This will raise a barrier that nullifies 1 attack for 1 ally, or raise an ability that nullifies an elemental attack. There are certain instances when you want to use this, but the MP cost is really high with 28 here. So I typically would reserve that for situations where you know that attack's going to take you out. And you can see here, nothing too difficult with this enemy here, but yeah, with the Jump Thrust attack, you're able to set up really well for being able to take down damage because it's going to lower their defense. With this game in particular, and with pretty much all Persona games, you want to be able to raise your offensive skills and lower the enemy's defense as much as possible, and avoid having that happen to your character as well, because that can be really, really bad. So With this, I think that the best options for damage would be going with Hulkenberg at the start, following up with Stroll, and also being mindful of your positioning in combat, because your character is going to have a little bit less defense, so you don't want to have them at the front lines of combat. So typically, you're going to bring your character back, let the others handle the combat. But there it is. That is probably the best build for the early game in Metaphor Refantazio. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below. I'll try to get back to every comment as quickly as possible. Thank you so much for watching. And I guess we'll just show off another combat encounter here, because we got multiple goblins and I am getting wrecked. But the healer's presence induced anger. So we got them in a frenzy there, and they're hitting me with weak attacks. That's not good, because that gives them more turns. So they're going to be able to hit us multiple times. But sometimes it's best to start with a multi-attack, or you can just go with testing the waters to see with something like Slicer here. Or also Round Slash to be able to deal damage to all of them, see where your damage stands, and then you can use Menu to heal your team. That is another good option too, just for survivability's sake. You can go that route. And then on your next turn, if there's a strong enemy there, you can also go with Hulkenberg's ability to lower defense. Unfortunately, the healer is weak to fire damage there, so we're getting hit multiple times, and it's just giving them a ton of attacks, which is not going well for us, you can see. And yeah, you can see that's not good. I almost went down there. So yeah, this synthesis attack jump thrust being one of the best options here, but even early on, it's sometimes better to just focus on taking down the enemies and keeping yourself defensively well. That was not great, but we need to make sure that we land our next hit, so we'll just go with a light attack like that, and then go with our heal. So you can also restart combat at any time. That's going to help out if you just had a bad start like that one, because there is RNG involved, but you need to restart the fight before they start attacking. So yeah, just another tip: whenever things don't go your way, enemies will typically abuse any type of ability they can to get a bit extra damage. So yeah, things are not going too smoothly for us. So that's why we have Mage Blade here, because this can deal a little bit extra damage. 128 there, and then Stroll is down, so that's not ideal. And we want to take this one out, so we'll reduce their amount of turns. The action economy in this game, you want to reduce the amount of attacks that they can get. We're going another frenzy, it's going to hit me pretty hard, but Hulkenberg will hold it down for us. Multi-attacks are rough because they'll give the enemies multiple turns there if one of your teammates is weak to that attack. So that was the case there. And we should be able to take him down with another light attack here. I'm not even going to risk going with a wind attack just in case it reflects, because that would be bad. But there you go. Even in the worst of instances, you can still turn it around in Metaphor Refantazio. So that's a nice thing. Sometimes you just need to back off and go and heal your team. So you can pull up the menu by pressing left here, and you can use your items too. Don't be afraid to use any healing items, because early on in the game, MP is pretty rough to go by, so you don't want to be spending too much of it if you can avoid. Oh, I started combat there by accident. That was not ideal, but yep, that's the best build guide in Metaphor Refantazio for the early game. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video useful, please hit the subscribe button below, and we'll see you all in the next video.